Hey, Amy.
Hey, Brad, how's it going?
Good. Looks like we might have a couple others here also.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
We can.
Perfect.
All right, I think I made it.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, it looks like we could have a full house today. Well, Shelley, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off with a little bit of roll call, we can get started.
Sure can. Andrea Mannion,
Here.
Amy Gallegos,
Here.
Dylan Rye,
Here.
Brad Nixon,
Here.
Travis Ridley, Judith Dunlop, Nathan Hoag, Steve Paul, David Carroll, Rita Russell,
Here.
All right. Looks like we lost Travis.
we did.
So do we have,
We do have a quorum with Travis.
okay,
She should be back.
I'll give her a, oh, there we go.
I'm here, sorry.
So you're supposed to get your glass of water ahead of the meeting, not
What's
after
that,
the
wine?
meeting starts. Or if
Okay.
you're a two bottle person like Andrea, then getting up in the middle of the meeting is okay. So.
Yeah, I was trying to make it at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It's
You're
tax
all-
season. I need lots and lots of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that. So let's see. We've got some minutes to approve. Anything on the minutes from last month that anybody saw as incorrect?
Nope.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes from last month on February, what was the date? 2021.
I second.
All right. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
All right. Looks like we're good here. Good on that little thing. Well, we have a guest, but before we kind of jump into our guest, Darren and I were kind of chatting via email earlier this week, and thought we would do something a little bit different, maybe for other guests, I guess, that we have, maybe less so for ourselves, but it's fun anyway. Just to do kind of a, name and the business that you're involved in. And then also, I guess I'd like to hear what you feel like is working well within ACE. And I have a follow-on question after that, but let's start with that. So my name's Brad Nixon. I am owner with my wife of Nixon's Coffee House and Sharegood Foods, both Inglewood businesses, and have been part of the Alliance for Commerce in Inglewood for, gosh, I probably need some help from Shelley here, but 5 years, I think. And, I think what's working well for ACE is, from my perspective, is our ability to actually get out and from time to time visit businesses. And I'm a little bit antsy when we can't visit those businesses. So as you probably have noticed, I've been antsy for 12 months. So on my screen, Rita's to my right. I'm gonna pass the ball to Rita.
Thank you. I'm Rita Russell. I don't really know. I know I've been here as long as Brad has. I don't think I've been on here my entire time on council, and I am 6 years on city council. I am really impressed with this committee and your effectiveness. And I know that you have really even been effective during COVID in reaching out. I know it's been difficult and not, probably doesn't feel as great, and probably even for the businesses, it doesn't feel great during COVID, but I believe you are a very effective committee, and I appreciate your hands-on in the city. So I don't own a business in the city. I am actually retired and have been enjoying my time on city council. So thank you all for what you're doing. I know that you're all business owners and you take time out of your schedule to help others, and I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. And Amy is to my, actually Amy's to my left. So I'll pass it to you, Amy.
Okay, thank you, Rita. My name is Amy Gallegos. I'm an optometrist in the area, and I own iLogic, which is over in the Englewood marketplace. I have been on ACE now, I think, for about 4 years. Andrea and I were actually emailing about that a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's about 4 years. What I think that ACE does well is similar to what Brad was saying, and it's also a little frustrating for me. I do think that being able to be out there and speaking to the businesses and actually showing ACE as a liaison to the city is what we're best at. And obviously our hands have been tied with that. I also think that some of the, grassroots sorts of things that we tried to do with Small Business Saturday and Small Business Week, I think that those are also places that we can improve on and work with for the future, especially if we have to continue to be socially distanced.
Amy, your pick.
Oh, Drevis.
Okay, make sure I'm on here. Am I on? Yeah. I think I've been on the ACE board 3 years. I was on the medical marijuana and alcohol authority board prior to that. And I also work on the water board now as well. I have to say the transition from prior to COVID and then after COVID, what I saw was, even before everybody had to shut everything down, we were very proactive in reaching out to businesses and working on advertising that was available to us through the city. I know that there were several times that when there were businesses that needed some help with stuff, Darren was willing to take up the baton and dig down and see what was going on there to see how we could help those businesses. After COVID, when people, some people had to shutter, we were still able to reach out, especially to the restaurants, and help them with funding, grants. we were very proactive. We followed up on those. We did that survey, which was wonderful because some businesses didn't know that there was finances available to them. I think we were able to point people in the right direction. From what I hear, none of the other cities are doing the same thing. People have to find out for themselves, whereas we're looking for the businesses that need connections and need help. And I think that's one step ahead, or 5, of any of the other local cities, especially with the business I spoke with that had 4 businesses in 4 different cities. They said Inglewood by far was way ahead of the curve on helping out. And that's been my observation, is we've maintained that even though we've had to do it from a distance. And I don't have the thing up with everybody, so whoever wants to run in, grab in.
I can go next. My name's Dylan Rye. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Swedish Medical Center. I've been on ACE, I believe, just a little over a year now. And I think what ACE does really well is what you've heard here. Just staying connected with the small business within the community and being able to understand what it is they truly need and being able to advocate for that. I think this is a really good forum for that. And that's where the heart of a lot of the folks that are on this team are. And so it's nice to see that continue to push forward consistently and be front of mind for all of us.
So Judy and David, you joined us after I kind of threw down these couple questions. If you guys could introduce yourself, what your business is that you're involved with, and then give the group some ideas of what you think is working well with ACE. Judy, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I had a little trouble seeing. Still, I'm recovering from cataract surgery, so I apologize for being late. Judy Dunlop, I'm the vice chair. Small business, which I've really never been able to do too much with, JD Unlimited. I'm a holistic practitioner. I guess I'd say most recently with regard to my cataract surgery, I can definitely recommend Mile High Institute and iLogic, Dr. Amy Gallegos, managing my care. The things that ACE has done, we have been very proactive. I think that what I've seen from the response of some of the questionnaires that were put in, the walking tours that we also engaged city council when we were doing that before COVID. So we really had a lot of commitment, not only from city council, but communications director, and being of good support with what we did. I've been pleased to work on the ACE Commission. I certainly am hoping we're still talking about being proactive this year and what is possible. There's a good interaction between all of our members. And so I'm hopeful that we will be able to do some of the things that we've set forward. That's our goal. And I have enjoyed very much being part of this committee. Thank you.
David?
Yep. David Carroll, I'm with the Greater Englewood Chamber of Commerce. I'm the executive director. I think the partnership with ACE has been a positive experience. And I think a large of that, what everybody has already said, or I heard that people have said, that connection with local businesses has been a real positive aspect of being part of this group and commission. Thanks.
All right. Darren, do you have anything to add here? Or Shelley?
Brad, I don't have a lot to add except when some of the outreach that ACE has done. into the business community. When ACE has done that type of outreach, it's been very, very successful. Whether it's a survey, walking the neighborhood in the industrial area, or the ACE outreach that you've done with the one-on-ones, that was very successful.
Okay. All right. So one other question, and I'll, whoever would, oh, Amy, I'm sorry. Amy, do you have something to add?
Did I miss it, or did we not hear from Andrea?
Oh, Andrea, did we scoot right on by you? I'm sorry.
It's all good. I'm Andrea Mannion. I'm a tax accountant. I have my own accounting and tax practice just from home. I'm like mostly remote virtually. I have clients in other states who I've actually never met in person before. And I looked it up, and I've been on ACE since 2016. So it was same time as Brad and Amy. It's 2016. Again, like everyone else said, I think ACE is great at reaching out to the business community. I think people know who we actually are now, which is great. So same kind of thoughts there for myself as well.
Okay. So I'll ask my question now, and that is, and just, if you have something to add, great. If not, don't feel pressured that you have to add anything. But what do you think that we need to further our mission? Some ideas, some things that maybe you're missing, some things that you'd like to see added in that might be helpful. Put you on the spot, right?
How are we going to work going forward with the DDA?
Great question. If you wouldn't mind putting that one on hold until we actually engage with Alex a little bit here. That's actually one of my questions for him, but kind of after we get into it a little bit, I think that's an excellent question. Well, one thought, and I think I probably speak for the group when I say this, what would help, I think one of the things that would help us to further our mission is to be able to get back to meeting face to face, not just with one another, but also with some of the people out in the community. Would love to be able to do some of that in the next couple months, at least out in the community, do some more feet on the street kind of stuff with us. I think we're getting to a point where that's probably, I'm hoping, is amenable for the city. Darren, you'll probably have to tell us whether that's okay, but that would be one thing. And the other part of this, I guess, is for us, it's probably more of an us thing, is for us to get serious about kind of as we start to maybe get back to quote more business as usual, are the things that we really want to knock off, because I feel like that at best, at best we've been at pause for a lot of things that I think that we could have done. Not to say that we haven't accomplished things over the past 12 months, but I have felt bad that we've not been able to reach out and do more. So, for us, it would be a challenge to be able to make some real concrete plans and some things put on our list of some things that we can really accomplish.
Brad, I see Alex's hand is up. He may have a comment question.
Oh, there he is. Alex,
hi.
Around on my screen.
So to address what you just said about meeting in person, there's no specific rule that applies to boards and commissions that's necessarily a rule coming out of the city. And if you're following Tri-County Health Guidelines or Englewood City Guidelines, you can meet in whatever way you guys are all comfortable with. Now, that the only caveat I'm going to put on that is that if you're having a meeting at the Civic Center or something like that, there may be additional guidelines based on the Civic Center rules. But if all of you wanted to get together especially as it's warming up, say at Nixon's on the patio, there is no rule that prevents you from doing so. Does that make sense?
It's good to hear. I didn't realize that. I thought we were forbid from meeting face to face.
And Councilmember Russell, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just have a question. Do we have the ability to video from outside? I mean, would it be possible wherever we meet, whether it's at Nixon's or wherever, it has to be an open meeting? That's correct, isn't it?
Yes. So it does have to be open to the public. That's above my pay grade as to whether or not that can be done in terms of like a hybrid meeting or anything like that. But as long as it's open and you all are comfortable as a committee, that's your decision. That's not a decision that the city necessarily has, unless the city wants to enact something in an ordinance or something like that. There's no public health guideline from the city that I'm aware of that would prevent 10 people from getting together. I haven't looked at the last Tri-County, but I'm pretty confident that if 10 people or however many are gathering, it would depend on the Tri-County guidelines and what current COVID level we're at. But there's no prescription from the city from doing that.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you, Alex. Other thoughts, ideas? What are we missing? What do we need to be able to help us accomplish our mission?
I feel like we're really laxed in dealing with that area down at Federal and Hamden. Again, I just, if there's anything that we can put together to try to go down there or talk with them, or, I mean, I know this year we've been limited and surveys became our friend. But I mean, even if it's as simple as passing out a survey to those businesses and trying to get it back specifically, I don't have any idea what's going on down there. And I just think we need to try to focus our efforts, particularly going forward, on some of those more neglected areas, if you will.
And just to clarify, do you mean Federal and Bellevue?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, I like that. I've always felt that that's an area that we never have had much of a chance to get any energy in. Andrew, you're shaking your head. You must have some ideas.
Just agreeing with you guys.
Okay, well, let me move on. If there's other things that come up, just as we're discussing something that's related, go ahead and pop those in. I would like to give way to Alex and have him talk to us. I know that there's some changes that we need to talk about, but would love to hear about your role now as the interim city attorney, and tell us about yourself.
Okay, I'm currently the interim city attorney. I was previously in the city attorney's office before Allison McKinney Brown moved on. I've been with the city of Inglewood for about 4 years. And I see my role as an attorney, as an interim city attorney, or as just an attorney in the office, primarily in assisting city employees, boards and commissions, and really the city council in accomplishing the goals that they're trying to accomplish with minimal sort of headwinds, at least legally. So in this particular sphere, my goal with anything that I would talk to you guys about is, how can you get where you're trying to go? But of course, that always starts with, well, what can you do? And being an attorney, the first thing I'm supposed to say is, well, let's look at what the rules are for what ACE does. So in pulling it up, I think these are the powers and duties. This is what ACE gets to do. You get to provide input on analysis on economic impacts in the business district. You review city regulations and policies to provide input. You consider community issues for potential implementation. You work with staff to obtain reasonable and creative, I can't see it because it's behind Andrea, not your fault, Andrea. In cooperation with the city, work to enhance the image and assist the city in expanding outreach opportunities. So that's a really sort of long-winded way of saying you do exactly what Dr. Gallegos said. You're a liaison to the city, and what Drevis said, your outreach, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, you're an outreach to business. And that's, there's not any specific task that this group is supposed to accomplish, which is both a blessing and a curse. There's not a specific role that you have to play, but you're in the position where you have a much more amplified voice to the city council because you do speak as a representative of Inglewood businesses, and you have the ability to create, to reach out further than city council can, and to reach out in different ways and to be contacted in different ways. And what the reason that city councils have boards and commissions, whether it be ACE or any other, is because there's so much that can be accomplished and there's so many different potential voices. And so the best ideas often don't come from a city council meeting. Sorry, Member Russell. But the best ideas come from someone like, I went around the room, Miss Warwick, who says, hey, couldn't we do this? And it's something that no one had thought of before, but it's a small change, or what seems like an insignificant change to an ordinance or an insignificant input from the city, but makes a huge difference to a number of businesses. And so the goal is to give people like Councilmember Russell information that you'd have no other way of knowing and no other way of getting. But also, and I really liked when, Travis, when you said this, the goal is also to provide that outreach because you're more attuned to what's going on in the city and what the city might do with the business grants to actually reach out, because a lot of times the businesses that most need those, or the people, whether it be businesses or, I'm just using business because that's what you guys are, but for any group that most need those, aren't the ones that even know to ask or who to ask. So that's an incredibly valuable function. And the whole idea of all of this really is so that Inglewood as a city can best serve all of its constituents. And you certainly don't want only the loudest voices or only the richest voices or the voices that always are going to have time to either send themselves or their representatives to city council meetings to be heard. You want the voices of people, like I'd assume a lot of you, who are working way more than 40 hours a week to still be there, because that's, large businesses don't just start out as large businesses. They start out as small businesses where people work really hard. And so we want to hear from them. And that's not a completely lawyerly thing to say, but I hope that captures sort of how I see your role. And if there's any way that we can, that the city can assist in that, that's our job.
Okay, well, thank you. We always appreciate the help, versus the headwinds. I appreciate that statement. And I am going to, where did Amy go? She's still with us. There we go. Amy, ask your question again. I think it's a good question to pose not only to the group, but also to Alex.
Okay, I have that question I asked before, and then I have another, but the first one was, how are we going to work with the DDA? How's ACE going to interact with the DDA?
And the answer to that question from my perspective is I have not really much of an idea. And the reason I say that is this. The DDA will function very similarly to the way ACE functions. So if someone were to ask, how do I work with ACE? Your answer would likely be, well, attend a few meetings. Maybe get appointed to it, but if you're not appointed to it, attend meetings and address concerns, or meet with members outside of the meeting time. I don't believe that there's going to be a specific prescribed, this is the only way that you can interact with the DDA. And what has also been talked about, although this would be up to both boards, are some joint meetings, which is certainly a possibility. There's no reason why there could not be joint meetings. Of course, both would have to be noticed and open to the public, but things like that certainly make sense to me. And again, my job at that point is just to make sure that the legal doesn't get in the way. But there's not a specific ACE has to do this with DDA or ACE has to do anything with DDA, although I can certainly see why that would be important to all of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You said you had another question as well?
I do. When you were talking, an idea popped into my head that may not be feasible or comfortable to everyone at this point, but could we have our next meeting in one of those parking lots down at Bellevue and Federal, or could we have our next meeting in one of those areas like right where that new Starbucks is going to go in, where McDonald's used to be? I mean, at least we're accessible, we're outside, maybe we're together, maybe we spend the first 30 minutes of our meeting talking to the businesses in that shopping center, or does that put us in too much liability being in a parking lot like that?
There is no legal reason why you can't schedule a meeting along those lines. There's not liability incurred for the city for where you guys decide to hold your meetings. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. My role in that is to answer, is there like, am I holding up a stop sign? Does that make sense? Am I saying you can't do it for this reason or that? And I'm not saying that. You can have your meetings where you want to have them as long as they are open to the public and noticed. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Changing lanes here a little bit, I would like for you to kind of help us all understand as a board, one, as we begin to open up to more members on the board, and then also, addressing individual situations that come up from time to time in the board, what the actual eligibility requirements are for a person to be on the Alliance for Commerce in Inglewood from your perspective.
I will answer that question with, again, the Inglewood Municipal Code, which is that business ownership and or management and commercial property ownership and or management shall be a requirement for membership without regard to residency. So you have to own or manage a business or a commercial property to be a member. And obviously it goes in there saying diverse group of membership, everything else. Ms. Russell, as a council member, is also eligible as a member, but those are the rules. Now, if there was a compelling reason, this is just the municipal code. So the municipal code can be amended or changed. It takes votes of council and everything. And I don't want to bore you with the how a bill becomes law conversation, but that's pretty much it. And if you felt a compelling reason to get it changed, that's something that myself and Council Member Russell and 6 of her friends could talk about.
Okay, well, and part of the reason why I ask is I know Steve Paul, who just emailed me a couple minutes ago, said he got pulled away, could not attend, but he started out as being solely in business within Englewood, and now he's moved more into a part-time role, transacting business, and is full-time outside of the city of Denver at kind of a another business. So, on his behalf, really is just to ask that question.
And there's no distinction between part-time or full-time business owners. And to be absolutely sort of frank and to give you a 10,000-foot level, as this is an advisory committee, I can't imagine that there's a large issue with saying, wait, this business qualifies and this doesn't, or you're just not spending enough time at this business. I would be surprised if there was that sort of question, but if there is, we could certainly look at the legal of it. But if Mr. Paul maintains a part-time business within the city of Englewood legally, I don't see a bar.
Okay. What other questions do we have for Alex from the group? Well, I'll cue one up here based on a conversation that I had in the past, and it's related to Amy's, and that is kind of the similar mission and goals that now the DDA has with ACE and also has with the Chamber of Commerce. And do you have any counsel for us how to stay in each other's swim lanes, or how to delineate those swim lanes better? And I kind of know the answers to this already, but I'd like to hear, and I think it's a good thing for us to discuss.
And I will say that in many ways, that's a question that's above my pay grade. And what I mean by that is that there's not a strict legal answer to that. That things like powers and duties for an advisory committee are deliberately written to be somewhat broad and even vague so that you can seek out your roles. You don't want to be limited by an ordinance when you could have a really important impact. You wouldn't want something that says, wait, you're not allowed to advise city council on that affects the business community because it's not specifically stated. The idea is to give you the most sort of broad authority to find those roles and to find the meaning within what you're doing. So on that level, there's going to be a lot of overlap between, at least in the very general sense, between the mission of the DDA and the mission of ACE. And then of course, the Chamber of Commerce is its own entity. And there's nothing that for me to say one way or the other about anything they do because they're their own entity. So what I would suggest is really just communication. And frankly, there's always going to be a lot of overlap, but it's a communication and a working together thing. And from a legal perspective, the only way that there would be cause for someone like me to say anything that's anything other than generalities is if the ordinances were to change and you were outside of your authority, which if you think about it, your authority is really only to give advice. So it's hard to be outside of that unless you're doing things that are way outside, which wouldn't really make sense. Councilmember Russell, I see you have your hand up also.
Yes, and this is more directed at you. My question is, there is a little bit of difference in the direction of each board. The DDA is actually a quasi-judicial board. Is that correct? And they have a fiduciary responsibility to the Downtown Development Authority. ACE is an advisory board to City Council. Is that correct?
It is, the DDA does have some quasi judicial elements, although the majority of what the DDA will do is still going to be advisory, but they do have a little bit of a quasi judicial function. And you're correct that anything that they do is just about that downtown area. Though of course, that's where most of our business is. So there is going to be a lot of overlap. It's not a complete overlap, but there's still going to be a lot of overlap, as I'm going out on a limb that, and I don't know specifically, but most of the businesses that were mentioned that I happen to know the location are within the DDA. And that's unsurprising because the DDA is our heavy business district. But you are correct, Member Russell, that the DDA has an additional role, but there's still a lot of advisory where there's going to be overlap.
Right, and individuals even can have input with the DDA, even if they're a member of the
Right.
ACE committee also.
In the same way that a member of the DDA could come and speak before ACE. There's no rule about one cannot speak in front of one or the other, or there may even be people who are members of both.
Right.
There's no rule about that either. And so there's going to be, I would, whenever you have something like this in the city, there's bound to be a lot of overlap. And I think the biggest key is to sort of see what each is focusing on and sort of carve out. The DDA should be focusing on downtown redevelopment in the broad sense, whereas ACE may be more focused on just sort of helping to incubate smaller businesses or making sure that the business community in general is represented. But those are your choices. Those have nothing to do with me.
Looks like you got them lined up there, Alex.
Andrea, you're the one on my left, so I guess I'll just call him. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Another area I think ACE needs to focus on is home-based businesses like myself. And now with the universal business license requirement that I had to get, I think we'll be able to figure out exactly how many other home businesses there are, especially today when lots of people are just doing services, right? From their home, or they have a startup in their basement or garage. We'll be able to know exactly how many businesses there are in Inglewood that aren't exactly a brick and mortar. And I know in the past, ACE has been able to get a list from the finance department on who has a sales tax license. And I'm wondering if ACE will still be able to get that detail from the universal business license applicants, so we can reach out to those home-based businesses more and know who they are.
There's no legal reason why you couldn't, which I know that's the answer that I end up giving a lot of the time. But that's, I think sort of that's oftentimes the question asked is, and you feel like you might run into those, well, legally we can't do these kind of headlines. Now you could, anyone, ACE or otherwise, could get a list of all the cities that have a license in Inglewood. David.
Thanks, Alex. And this is just I just thought I would share this with all of you, and maybe not so much a question for you, Alex, but the Chamber in relation to the DDA has done a little bit of reaching out to other communities that have DDAs, just because we have similar concerns on how are we all, as Brad put it, swimming in our lanes. And so I thought I would just share real quick what we found when reaching out. There seems to be two, maybe you might call them three models, but in Golden, for example, their DDA does not really play well with the others, and so we saw that the Chamber and their DDA and other entities kind of all did their same thing. And that was a little bit problematic from all the people that we talked to in Golden. Brad, as you indicated, Castle Rock is another example where they have created an informal and maybe supports what you're saying, Alex, an informal group that meets every Tuesday, the first Tuesday. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just going to make that up. And it consists of the executive director of the DDA, the executive director of the chamber. They have an EDC, which is a 501c6. They also meet, and they have a merchants association. And so the leaders of those groups meet on a regular basis, just in part, as you had said, to talk about what's going on and making sure that we weren't jumping on each other's toes. Longmont has a much more formal process, but very similar. They actually went through and went through the process of sitting down and creating a document that said, here's what the chamber does, here's what the DDA does. They have an alliance of commerce that is broader. So as you start to talk about these, each city has their own special entities. But again, I think to support what Alex said, some I think in good faith meet and try to stay in their lanes, and some cities do not. So it just depends on the cooperation, I think, of all of the entities. But I just thought I'd share that with you all. We've been doing a little research on our own.
And I think what David just said was really important, and it illustrates some cities have done this poorly and some cities have done this well. And again, there's not a legal or city council thing we can do to specifically prohibit doing it poorly. We certainly want to help it be done well, but that so much of that depends on people's willingness to work well with others, to create systems, as David had said, that sort of keep everyone moving forward, as opposed to everyone trying to occupy the same space and then neglecting other available space. Travis, you had your hand up?
I did. I think David sort of answered my question. My guess was, Amy, you were trying to drill down the role of ACE versus DDA, but I sense also, because you're in that specific zone, that you're witnessing something or seeing something that's causing a worry to you.
No, I wouldn't say that I'm worried or concerned. I just think that it's new, and that when things are new, especially, we have such a great relationship, in my opinion, with the chamber. I mean, I think we've been, we're on the same page. We try to be open. I know that a couple of us have gone to chamber meetings in the past when we could, and tried to present things when we had, and I think that cooperation is what we're going to need to succeed. And so I just wanted to make sure that we were aware and our eyes open to what was taking place already with the DDA, and that if we need to send an invitation, hey, we're here, we want to work with you, and so that we start off on the right foot. I mean, as David just said, those were some of my concerns. How are we going to, the golden model doesn't sound great to me. Like, whatever we have to do to not end up there, I think that's what we should be working on.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Alex, do we have some stuff that we need to talk about as far as the ordinance for adding a couple members to ACE? Is that something that we need to review with the group and talk about?
Well, the way something like that would work is that you would ask City Council whether or not it can be done by a study session, or it can be done somewhat more informally with something like that may not, that it may be that everyone on City Council just says, yeah, that's fine. There's no reason why we can't have more members. And I'm not trying to presuppose, because that is very much a Member Russell and her 6 aforementioned friends type decision. But it can be sort of done informally to say, do you want us to just bring an ordinance forward? And that's something where you would tell Darren, who would then tell me, and I would write the ordinance that allows you to add members. Or is that something that City Council wants to talk about first before making the decision on, and before going through the work of writing an ordinance? Does that
My
answer make sense?
It does, and you made that clear before. I didn't mean to go over some ground that we'd covered already. And I was just referring to what was attached in the packet as far as the number of members that we were able to have, and it was increased from 7 to 9 in the past. So thank you for explaining that, and I kind of answered my own question. So we do have open space for 9 members, and that would not include our council representation and then our chamber representation that we have. So just keep that in mind, or Darren and Shelley, who are in our meetings also that we have. So in addition to those people that I've excluded, we do have those spaces. So I just wanted to highlight that.
One question on that real quick is, we still have to wait for the 2 times a year that city council does applications, right? We can't decide, oh, can we add someone now? We still have to wait for that application period.
Not necessarily. There's no legal reason why, but city council don't typically want to do these things on a rolling basis because it takes up a huge amount of time. And so it's better to have it more organized. That stated, there's no legal reason why, for instance, I'm not trying to suggest them, just as an example, that at a city council meeting in a week, there couldn't be a first reading of an ordinance to increase the ACE membership to 360. I'm not suggesting that, but what I think is important is for me to highlight is there a legal reason why we can't do it, in which case it's just a stop sign, or is it just, this is typically the way it's done, which may have very good reasons, versus we just can't do it. So yeah, it could hypothetically happen, yes.
All right, do we have any other questions for Alex? Travis, you still have your hand up.
Sorry about that. I have to do extra buttons to get it off.
I
Sorry.
know. Your hand might get a little bit tired if you hold it up there too long. So. Well, if we don't have anything else, Alex, you're welcome to sit through the rest of what we have to do, which is another 30 minutes or so. Or you're welcome to bolt. Thank you for joining us and introducing yourself. It's nice to have a partner, I guess, in being able to do things. And I consider, every person within the city staff as partners. So it's great to have great city staff.
And it's actually really nice to be here, Brad. I really appreciate you guys having me. And I do want to say, and I mean this very earnestly, the people who volunteer to be on committees like this are some of the best people in a city. Because I hope you understand the spirit with which I say this, but I'm being paid to be here right now. Darren's being paid. You guys are volunteering. That means you're taking your own time that you could put to almost anything else to try to help your city out. So I can't say enough about how much I appreciate that. And if there are things that you believe that Inglewood can do, or that the city attorney's office can do, or if you have questions, contact myself, route it through Darren. We're happy to help. And with that, I will sign off then. But again, reach out to me. I'm here.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, here all along, I was thinking that Darren was going to pay me for doing this. So I guess I was wrong now that he clarified that. Hey, can we talk about next month? We've got an idea on the floor here with what Amy had suggested about meeting and somewhere in the vicinity of Federal and Bellevue. I think. Thank you, by the way, for covering when I ducked out early last meeting. But we also had some stuff come back from that about potentially doing a virtual or walking tour kind of thing. So what is it that we'd like to accomplish next month? And let's talk about that. Should we go down to a park? Bellevue Park, Airplane Park? weather permitting, meet outside, figure out how to do a virtual connection to the internet for sake of our meeting, and get a chance to see one another, maybe on the front or the back end of doing some walking tour kind of stuff in that area. Darren, thoughts, ideas? Your gears are moving, I can tell. I've been around you long enough to tell when the gears are moving.
Actually, they are, and I'm trying to figure out logistically how to make that work. I'm really glad Alex was here, and I'm kind of conflicted on what to say and how to say it on this one. Truthfully, we've had direction not to have in-person in City Hall meetings from the city manager. So candidly, going out in the field and having a walking tour of a business for business purposes for ACE. We need to have any meeting recorded, but we've gotten past that by doing the walking tours. So in this environment, and still in a COVID environment, the city manager has said we're 4th and goal. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing. He didn't use those words. He's not as corny as I am sometimes. But we're 4th and goal. Let's get it across the finish line when it's truly safe to get out in the field and meet and gather and do these things. The interim city attorney, is there any legal reason why we can't meet in the field? That's essentially what he was responding to. No. If we wanted to have a problem, get out and meet in the field. If it's a meeting, logistically, I would need to lean on staff to make sure that we have the technology to be able to do that and accommodate people that would not be able to make the meeting in person. So would all ACE members be able to meet in person? Yes.
I can.
Yeah.
Anybody not be able to meet in person? So we would need to be able to accommodate folks that could not meet in person. If there were members of the public, if this was a meeting, if this was a walking tour, Amy, which it sounds like that might be what you were suggesting, to get out and meet with those businesses, not just to sit in a park or sit in a parking lot. If that's the case, then maybe we just consider this a walking tour in that neighborhood, and it's not an in-house meeting, certainly not at City Hall, but maybe doing a walking tour. So Brad, I'm conflicted on what direction to give ACE, because the city attorney's saying there's no legal reason why we can't do it. City manager saying no in City Hall meetings. So I don't know how to respond exactly, but what my thought might be here is if ACE comes up with a recommendation, that we mull that, work that, and try to get that implemented as best as possible. That's all.
Would it be more wise or more prudent to push it to May meeting, so there's plenty of time and maybe better weather?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd be more comfortable just doing a virtual tour next month. I even have a business that is willing to do that right now. So, and then wait to do like a walking tour in May or June. Because I think the biggest reason why we want to meet in person is to meet with businesses, right? Not just meet with ourselves. So I don't really see a push for us to just meet in a park and talk about it. I'd rather get out in the business community if we were to get out. And I think waiting a few more months would be better, in my opinion.
Mr. Brad, Councilmember Russell has her hand up.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to support Darren in what he shared. I do believe that City Council, the direction is with City Council, that as long as City Council is not meeting in person, probably the board should not meet in person. I am ready to go back to City Hall, and I believe that a lot, the people are ready for us to go back to City Hall. I'm not sure that all of council is. And so, I mean, just the discussion here is helpful for me. I will bring this up in my report from the ACE committee. I haven't met with some of the other boards this month, but that's the general feeling in the public, is we'd like to get back. But Darren is absolutely correct in what he said. I mean, the city attorney told us what's correct. There is no legal reason we can't, but I do think that City Council probably is responsible for that decision. So that's, I think what you're talking about right now are great ideas. So just wanted to add that in.
Okay, so let me just suggest that that we do virtual next month, and be patient. Patience is a virtue. I have to remind myself that every once in a while. No more than once a day. And let's stick with council and with the city manager and make sure that we're setting a good example ourselves. I want to hear what Drevis and Andrea had for ideas, and then I also have another question for Darren about another development.
I'll start, I guess. Just to let you know, I live right across the street from Bellevue Park. And we have what I call the South 40, which is a chunk of land that's still on our property that probably if we needed Wi-Fi, we could set out there and still be able to be 6 feet apart. If in the future that's a need, I've got the space and the Wi-Fi, so that might help Shelley out with any of that. The one question I didn't ask earlier, and I don't know if I should have, was whatever happened to the paperwork that Andrea so carefully put together for us to use when businesses came online or just started up and we wanted them to have paperwork and information and that sort of thing. And I'm wondering if we can get that all back together. Can we add a page in there about what's available or who to contact if they think they might need some grant money or what's available through Arapahoe County? I know some things have to do with the Tri-County, not necessarily just with Inglewood, but how can we get that information to them using maybe that platform? And is that allowed? That was a lot in once.
That's okay, Drevis. That's, hey, so absolutely. Andrea and Andrea's husband did a great job of designing a better platform for our ACES flyer. We have a business resource guide, which is more static. It's got more our staple economic development programs and resources are in there. And our grant programs tend to be, we've got the base grant programs that the city has are in there, but all these COVID grants are on the city's website. So we're driving folks to the website. And just one of the weird, I always ask businesses, what are trends that you're seeing in COVID within their businesses? And a little weird trend is people are not doing much paper exchanging during meetings. So it's incumbent upon the city to have that information up to date on the city's website. So yes, Drevis, that would be, I would just drive businesses to the city's website for those grants.
Okay.
So Drevis, you also had a business that was interested in meeting with us virtually.
Yeah, and I don't have the name in front of me, but it's a restaurant bar that has had wonderful success through Inglewood. Things that were offered to them through Inglewood were not offered in other cities. She said they might have been available in other cities, but did not have the same reach out and follow up. And she said every time she talked to somebody in Inglewood, things were done overnight. She just never had to do a thing. It was just automatic. And she said by far and away, if there was anything we needed or wanted, something like the virtual, whatever, she would do her best to help us out with that. I want to say it was the 4 Aces, but I don't know that for sure. It's not in front of me.
How about 4Gs, Drevis? Does that sound familiar?
You're right. 4Gs. Sorry.
4Gs. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
No.
I spoke with the owner's son today on another matter, and they're so really just thrilled with things that are going on within the city of Inglewood. So that Eddie was his name, and that sounds like they would be happy to do something like that. Drevis, if that's an excellent connection, Drevis.
Yeah. She even said she was doing something, some sort of interview, and I don't remember who it was with, but that the first thing she was going to mention to them was businesses need to move to Inglewood, because the flow of business needs and the city actually stepping up to the plate was by far and away nothing she had ever experienced in any of the other cities. And I know that includes Denver and Aurora. There's a third, a fourth one there, but I don't remember what it is.
That's a good point, because they do have a footprint in other jurisdictions, so they've experienced other municipalities. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can ask them to, for our benefits, either, Darren or Drevis kind of invite them to be with us virtually and maybe compare, contrast some of their other locales with Inglewood, not in a stone throwing way, but just in a, these are helpful things that Inglewood does, kind of thing. I do not want to belittle any of our neighbors or any other of the metro cities.
Well said, Brad. Well said. Drevis, I'm happy to reach out. If you've got that relationship already with the business, it's always powerful business to business when those interactions happen. So I'll step aside. If you've logistically, Shelley and I can get links so that they can chime in on and get on the ACE agenda. But if you can confirm that, I would much appreciate.
All right.
Brad well said, throwing stones at another jurisdiction is not the game that we play in economic development.
Right.
With any other municipality. So, but being pro Inglewood is a good thing. But well said. Hat tip, Brad.
Andrea, who was your company?
It's Apex Combat Academy. I emailed you, Darren, and Judy last month. I don't know if you guys got it.
Yeah, I did.
But the owner, Austin, he is a client. He's also a member of the chamber. I got him to interview for ACE position, but he ended up on like the library board or something weird instead. So, but anyway, he has that martial arts, fitness studio, and he's over there in that area where we first had our walking tour. So he's not on Broadway. And he said he would be glad to give us a virtual tour, show us around his business.
Okay. I like that. I would suspect that we have room for at least 2 virtual tours and discussions with some other business owners. So I would love it if we could do these 2 things, if you guys are all amenable to that. I'm seeing a few nods. That's good. One question, and maybe another thing that we could potentially do, what is the status of the redevelopment efforts over by Earth-Trex? And should we ask them to give us any information about what's going on?
So that's a great question. I know that, and I may defer to David if you have any comments. I'm teeing it up for you. There's a public process that they have, because it's my understanding that there's a PUD involved, planned unit development. I don't know where they are in that process, in the PUD process, but there's going to be an opportunity for the businesses, or excuse me, for the neighborhood and others to interact. That PUD process goes through Planning Commission and it goes through City Council. So there's going to be an opportunity for public interaction. As part of their public outreach, they're required to have neighborhood meetings. Now, I'm not a planner, y'all, but that's my basic understanding for how that works. I know that they've interacted with the chamber, and there's a formal process with the city to make sure that that project is vetted publicly. If they were to do anything with ACE, it would be a courtesy update. That's all. That would be how I could best respond to that, Brad.
David, do you have anything else to add?
I mean, I think that's where they're moving forward. They have been working pretty closely with us at the chamber. In fact, we got a meeting with them, a lunch meeting with them next week. I know that they are interested in gaining business support for that, as well as the community support. So I could share your interest. I'm not sure that they would have any more updates than we do have that meeting that we had with them on our YouTube channel. I could share that as well with all of you to get the idea of where they're what their proposal was going to be. Other than that, I believe that they're just looking for people to attend their community meetings, and if there are business owners out there that are supportive, to attend those as well, to share their support.
Okay. Rita, if I could ask you, what would be helpful for us to do that would help you and the rest of council as you guys go through and listen to what they have to say, what they have to offer? Is there anything that you want us to be attentive to? Is there anything that you want us to do?
As a committee, I'm not exactly sure what you could do. I guess you could talk about it, but I do know when the public processes begin, and there will be public hearings, that if you want to impact council, you all should sign up to speak at the public hearing. And you can do that as an individual business owner. You don't have to do it as a committee. So other than that, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of been on my radar. I mean, I've just heard a few things. David is probably a lot more familiar with what's going on. Council usually is probably the last to get involved. By the time they get to us, it's pretty far moved along. So that could be a few months yet. I mean, I don't know that it'll be that long, but so that's all I know right now. But the most effective way, I believe, for you to impact council is to show up at the public hearings and weigh in at those.
Okay, all right. Well, let me suggest that next month that we have a virtual with Apex Combat and then 4Gs. And specifically with 4Gs, I'd love to hear about some comparisons and contrasting of working in other municipalities that they have, and would really love to learn more about Apex and find out all the things that make that business tick and why Inglewood.
Andrea and Travis, please email me and Shelley with their contact and a confirmation. And Shelley will send out an ACE invitation for them to chime on, much like this, with be a Zoom participant. And they can share their screen and we can supersize that image and they can give a tour of their business, perhaps, however they're comfortable, and just have a conversation with these business owners. This is great. I'm looking forward to this. Excellent idea on this type of format as at least a half a step in that direction. So Travis, thank you. Andrea, thank you for your lift on that as well.
Yeah, I think it's great. We have a restaurant and kind of like a gym, place, two kind of businesses that have been hit pretty hard with COVID. So it will be interesting to see how they're dealing with that.
Moving along, David, do you have anything that you want to share with the group about chamber related things? Anything that we should be aware of? How can we help you?
If you guys have any ideas, I don't know if you're watching or if you're on our email list, you've probably seen that we've reinstated our programming. That being our young professionals group, which is the Inglewood Leadership Exchange, our networking groups, our idea labs, and our thought co-ops, which are our big idea topics. Our idea labs are where we have members teach other members, but we try to find those members that can address a need within the community, within our business community. So most recently, yesterday we had someone from Social Media Energy address the idea of social media advertising, and that really came out of the businesses. A handful of our members saying, now that we're opening, I'm feeling more hopeful, but I need to have a little bit more help on understanding how to drive more customers, not only to my brick and mortar, but to my online presence, so that I can sell more online, things that some of these businesses have learned from this pandemic. So if you have more of those ideas, if you have some ideas that you run across that say, hey, people would really like to know Just give you an example. The example before that is we had a Andrea, or not, Angela from Tiny Studios give us, because she has a television background, gave us some really great tips on just how to present yourself better on Zoom, more professionally on Zoom, since that's where most of our meetings are happening anymore. And that's one of our most popular YouTube ones right now. I think it's at 67 views. So those are things that we can help. And then we are looking to host, possibly, we're still working with dates, and Tri-County get back to our annual awards banquet. And we're looking at hoping to do that in May, the end of May. We typically do it in April, but pushing us out into May and finding a venue has been difficult. So I'd say look at that. And again, anything that, if you have ideas and want to share those with us, please reach out. I think there's a lot of programming that we have that can include those ideas into our already set up programming. So happy to help in any way we can.
Question on the venue. Are you looking for a space that's open or that can handle the crowd size?
Well, ideally, we'd like to have 90, but in the past, we've had 80 to 90 people attend. If we had a venue to that, and I'm sure all of you would notice that Inglewood does not have a hotel that has a banquet facility that you can have those kind of large things on. And so that would be ideal, So other than that, we've reached out to a handful, but if looking for something, I think right now we've found something that could give us maybe 40 people seated. Do you have an idea?
I do, but it's not in Englewood. It's in Denver.
Yeah. So that would be a little bit of the rub. If they weren't in Englewood, we try to make sure they're members. So for example, the Northgate Event Center that was in Sheridan, they were members and they had a really nice space, but that space has been sold so that it doesn't exist. Well, need now until the new owner decides what it's going to be. That space doesn't exist. So, but maybe we can talk offline if you want, Brad.
I'd love to. Yeah, if I can help, brainstorm some ideas with you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Anyone have any comments in the group? Anything they want to highlight? Anything? Okay. Rita, anything from you and council?
Actually, I just would like to share that City Council did do interviews for the DDA positions last Monday, and we will be making a decision this coming Monday, and we'll be discussing that. And Brad and Amy did a great job, and hopefully one or both of them could end up on the DDA, and then you will definitely have representation on the board. So so I really, there's nothing more to share about that. That is really the main thing that's been going on now. And like I said before, I'm ready to go back to City Hall. I don't think it's going to happen in April, but hopefully by June, May or June, I'm hoping that we can be back to City Hall, and then all of the boards and commissions can start getting back. So I appreciate all that you're doing, and it is my pleasure to be the liaison to this board. So thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, Rita. We all appreciate that. We appreciate you being part of the group and whatever we can do to support you. Darren, Shelley, anything? Closing comments?
I don't have much to add, except I know Alex is not on the line right now, but a big hat tip to Alex. As he was preparing for this meeting, we talked briefly, and I said, Alex, you're my hometown hero, because he's the first city attorney in many years, or ever, to meet with the various boards and commissions of the city, including ACE. So a big hat tip to Alex.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's not anything else, I would suggest that we adjourn and pick this up again next month. All right. You all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll see you next month.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.